After playing Enter the Gungeon a couple times, you know one thing for sure. You're gonna die a lot. But lucky for you, you have stumbled across Tar H2O's super awesome Enter the Gungeon Beginner's Guide for Dying Better. I'll start off with a breakdown of the 4 playable characters, and then after that I'll get into the ways to unlock stuff to help progress further into the Gungeon. So let's get to it. The Marine starts with 1 armor and an item allowing him to get an ammo drop. All this and the ability to reload faster make him the ideal character for first time players. This is the character I recommend using until you get the hang of the dodge roll mechanics. But he doesn't really have any good firepower. The pilot gets a discount in the shops and starts with an item that can pick locks. But if it fails, and it usually does, you can't use a key on it, forcing you to break it open, which I'll get into later on. Another thing worth noting is this guy's weapon. I think it's the worst starter weapon due to its low range, which can make boss fights really tough early on. Speaking of starter weapons, I think the Hunter has the best loadout. Her crossbow is more than enough to challenge the bosses on the first chamber as soon as you find them. And that comes in real handy because you're guaranteed another weapon every time you beat a boss. She also has a pet dog that will sometimes dig up loot like keys and health every once in a while to help you out. Getting the extra keys and stuff is nice, but it leaves a lot to chance. And lastly, the Convict. She has a super destructive arsenal. Her shotgun and Molotovs are a force to be reckoned with. The downside is the short range of the shotgun, and the Molotovs can damage your character as well. Her rage ability does come in handy during boss fights, because you're most likely going to get hit. I personally don't prefer this character because one of her abilities requires you take damage. My advice is to just try out all the characters and use their unique abilities as much as you can, and then you'll seem to gravitate towards 1 or 2 of the characters. I won't say too much about the dodge roll system since the game forces you to play a tutorial, but I will say it is best to roll towards gunfire rather than away. Since you can dodge roll faster than some bullets, you could get hit by the bullet you were trying to dodge in the first place. Chests are going to make or break your run in the Gungeon, so you have to make the most out of them. If there is no way to get keys to open the chest, it deserves to be broken. Sometimes you might get decent drops, but mostly you'll get junk, which looks like a little brown paper bag of God knows what. But finding a lot of them isn't necessarily a bad thing. When you find the shop, you can sometimes find some creepy guy underneath the sewer gratings in that room, and he loves this stuff. Just toss the junk or any passive item you don't want onto the grating and he will pay well for it. Then you can just buy what you really wanted in the first place. Now, once you make it to Chamber 2 a couple of times, you'll start to notice there's a couple of NPCs being held against their will in cells on that floor alone. These characters are very important for progression across multiple playthroughs. The only problem is you'll have to find a key to get them out. These keys can be hidden across the level or only obtained by defeating the boss of the second chamber. Now, unlocking the cell, in my opinion, is more important than progression through the dungeon. Even though every NPC is not going to have awesome unlocks, it's definitely worth freeing every one every time. These characters will provide different shops either in the breach or within the Gungeon itself, which will make future trips through the Gungeon that much easier. Now, I'm not going to list what every NPC will do for you because I could make an entire video on that, but always unlock them before you move on to Chamber 3. So I think that's enough to start off with Enter the Gungeon and get you pretty deep into it. It's pretty fun to kind of find the different NPCs and discover what they do on your own. Just remember, this game is a learning process, and the more you play, the more you're going to know about the enemies. If you beat the first boss on the first chamber, consider it a small win if nothing else, and if you didn't do that, hopefully you'll learn something. Well, I guess that about does it for me, just to keep trying, keep dying, keep getting a little further. And if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like, and we'll see y'all next time.